principle 2, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because you've all done it, is the law of the vital few. Now, I'm very big on 80-20 because it's so powerful. And it's another one of those things that, well, it's so powerful that you can revolutionise your business just by looking at it with 80-20 eyes. Perry Marshall did a book called 80-20 Marketing. He makes a big error, though, which I'll go into in a moment. But in principle, he's dead right. I mean, if you were to take your top 20% of customers and start selling more to them, put them into some kind of special box, if you like. I think you've done this, haven't you? If you've not, you should have done, because I told you to. You make loads more money. Again, my top 20% is my elites, without doubt. I have people pissing and moaning because I spend more time on my elites than anyone else. Well, fuck, I'm going to do that. Pay me all the money. You're just a wanker who's bought a fucking 20 quid product. Fuck off. Here's your money back. Go away. Die. So in everyday life, 20% of your clothes get worn 8% of the time. 80% of road accidents involve just 20% of the population. That's me at the moment. 8% of the population. 80% of the population live in 20% of the cities, etc., etc. But in your business, I mean, those numbers you can look up. But in your business, 80-20 is alive and kicking. If you've got enough numbers there, this is the mistake I think Perry Marshall makes. He says because it's fractal in the sense that of your top 20%, there's another top 20%, and so on and so on. But when you get down to small numbers, it's not statistically significant. And he misses that, and a lot of people do. This is what annoys me. You get people on you ever seen the Warrior Forum? No. Oh, it's appalling. It's real hype. You get people saying, a road to sales letter that got a 90% success rate, and he sent like 5 of them out. Well, that's not statistically significant at all. It's just luck or judgment. Luck rather than judgment, But in your business, 20% of your marketing accounts for 80% of your business, 80% of your sales go to 20% of your clients. You know this is true. But I bet there's hardly anyone here who knows what those numbers actually mean in terms of customers and the products they sell and the clients and what you do. Do you? Deathly silence. If anyone probably knows, it would be Michelle, because she's got loads of numbers coming from a bookkeeper. But you don't actually sell anything, so you don't.
Mine's not significant.
No.
I know them.
But you need to keep redoing it, because I've done this, I do it every couple of years, and I'm going to do it again now, I won't this, because things change.
Yeah. And of all the complaints, I mean, this is where we get into positioning. Again, more about this tomorrow, but of all the complaints and headaches, 8% of them come from 20% of your clients. And the obvious thing is you get rid of them. I did some work with a website firm, not far away actually, from here, when I first got here in Ireland. And the first thing I told him to do was, one, put your prices up, which he'd resisted because it was right at the beginning of the recession, 2008. But he did. And the second thing I told him to do is to take your bottom 20% of customers and just get rid of them. And he says, I can't do that. And I says, well, look, let's go through the numbers. And these people, some people were paying him £500 a month, some were on £100 a month, some were on £500 a year. It was compared to his top business, it was small numbers. I said, look, how much are you going to lose in revenue if you get rid of these people? And it was I'd say 10 grand a year. And this guy had got several employees in an office, so 10 grand wasn't a huge amount. And I says, but what's it going to save you in terms of time? And he said, it's going to save us about 20 hours a week. And I said, well, 20 hours a week for 10 grand, that sounds like and then you can put that 20 hours a week and that money into getting, well, that 20 hours a week into getting new high quality clients or selling more stuff to your existing clients. And he did it, and I went back about a week or two later, and he says the whole business has changed because the morale was so improved. They got rid of all these scumbags who were phoning up, demanding things all the time and paying fuck all for it, and he got rid of them. And he says, how do I get rid of them? I said, send them to your competitors. They will love you for it because hey, they're sending us business. Hey, it's shit business, but so you offload all your shit clients and customers onto your competitors. They are happy because they've got someone still servicing their needs. Your clients, your competitors are happy because they think you're nuts giving them business, and you're happy because you got rid of the shit. I don't do that actually, because I refer people to Vicky Fraser all the time. But I only send the good people. I wouldn't send them shit. And 20% of businesses will enjoy 8% of the market share. You know all this. What you might not realise is what it can mean for you. Such as the simple way to grow your business is a relatively low value 20% activity, as in getting new leads, which is simple but not easy, but it's fairly low value. The most profitable way to grow your business, selling to existing customers and raising your prices, is a high value 80% activity. But business owners get them the wrong way around. They spend all their time on the low value stuff that's simple but not easy, and completely miss out on the easy stuff that will have the massive bang for the buck. And when you're putting your prices up, there's no work at all. And I say to people, quite literally, that you can start making more money from the very first break, because you can just go on your website or tell your staff our prices are going up, and you make more money. And the thing is, I've never heard of it happening, but even if it actually damages your business in the sense you make fewer sales, the graph isn't in this, I should have put it in, but I can send it out. You can make fewer sales and still make more profits anyway. But it just doesn't happen. I think one of your lab guys was crying on the phone to you because he was going to get his house repossessed or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, thank you for your advice for putting your prices up. Blah, blah, blah.
But I've only heard that's once, and you don't know what else was happening in his life. But Dom put his prices up, Drew's put his prices up. I don't know whether you put yours up or anything. You undercharged me, silly girl. How do you know that you undercharged me? Do you remember? Did I tell you?
How do I know that I undercharged you?
What was the big glaring thing that should have told you?
I don't know. I didn't say anything.
I didn't say anything, I just paid it. And then I told you you'd undercharge me. Same with you, Alex. But it doesn't work in the video. Price rises in video is a different business, especially in Ireland, in Cork. So anyway, this 80-20 thing, if you look at this graph on page 25, it shows you that your high value tasks are, and the caption beneath it, are 16 times more valuable than the low value ones. Now this is if we're looking at 80 and 20. The numbers don't have to be 80 and 20. They don't even have to add up to 100. And sometimes you'll find it like 99 to 1, as in 1% of your stuff makes you 99% of your profit. My business is mine's probably about a 90-10 business, because my income is massively skewed towards my elites, which is not necessarily a good thing to be. Although it's unlikely that there'll be a mass exodus from elite, I'm very aware that I rely on one thing. And if I was, say, unable to do it, I'd be quite vulnerable, which is why I want to get the products selling and things, and do more consulting. So it's not for everyone. It's great. I know my prices are about right at 12.5 grand a day plus VAT, because people ask for my menu and they don't come back, which is good, because I'm not doing it for any less. The thought of sitting in a room in this hotel with the kind of people on my list for a day, it'd be hard work. Even if it was someone in this room, it'd be hard work. Not in the same way as if it was, say, various, like Malcolm. Imagine doing a day, I just wouldn't do it. One of us would end up dead, and it wouldn't be me. So, that's 80-20. It's a bit of an eye-opener, that. I remember some years ago, I had a guy, he was in my first kind of mastermind, bit like Elite, and his son sold little dinky toys, model cast metal cars off his website, and he had a shop in Nottingham, and for some reason they were massive in Korea, South Korea, and he sold thousands of pounds a month to Korea and a few quid out of his shop. But because of the nature of the terms of his lease, he had to be in the shop. He couldn't just use it as a warehouse. And I said to him, well, 95% of his sales or something came off the website. So I says, well, why have you got the shop at all? He says, well, I have to be there. That's like, why are you in the shop? Well, I have to be there. I says, well, why do you have the shop at all? You're in that shop 5 or 6 days a week, and for 10% of your income. So are you willing to take a 10% cut in your income to not have that shop and not have to go to work? Oh yeah, obviously. Well, you don't, obvious, because you're not doing it, you fucking moron. But he did. He just jacked it in. Just put his boxes of toys in the garage instead. But that was an obvious one. But it's obvious to me. But it's one of those things that I mentioned earlier about Because everybody who sells models has a shop. Well, that's what you do. That's the way the business is run. The fact that he was actually not selling very much out the shop, he didn't need the shop to run his business, but he could get out of the mindset that he did need it because that's the way you do it. Now, it's not fair. We know it's not fair, but life ain't fair. Really not. And you can't change those numbers. This is why socialism will never work, because they want to. And they do anything they can to change the numbers, but they can't. And they talk about redistribution of wealth without realising that the wealth is distributed the way it is for a fucking good reason. And it ain't all down to cabals and secret societies and all those kinds of things. It's down to the fact that life ain't fair and some people work harder than others, and we've had good fortune and bad fortune, and that's it. But what you can choose is which side of the fence you want to sit on. Now, it's all about choices, really. I mean, all your customers and clients are not the same, so it's up to you where you put your time. It's up to you how much you charge. It's up to you what you will allow in your business. I mean, elite is... Do you want a ruler, Michelle?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Oh, do you hear my hip go then?
Going to all my station needs in future. Thank you.
I'm far too good to you. Oh, it's quite moist, actually.
You go and get a ruler from your bag.
£300. It's not for everyone. But they also get a half an hour Skype conversation with me.
Yes.
Yes, my magic bag. Everyone who comes into your business, you've invited in. They're there by your consent. But they're not even there by your consent, they're there by your choice. Because you've attracted them, you've said yes. You don't have to take them on. John Carlton tells a story that when he was a struggling young copywriter, he got some bloke agreed to pay him $1,000 up front for some work. And he went back to his office and the cheque arrived in the post. It was 500. And he rang the guy up and says, well, we said 1,000. He says, yeah, but I thought if I gave you 500, you'd work harder for it. And John says he tore the cheque up, sent it back, and he said ever since then, he's never allowed himself to be bullied by a client. That's quite a powerful story because most people would have said, oh, okay, let's deal with that. I mean, I did it myself. I used to work with this firm in Cambridge. And every fucking time it was the same. Your best price, please, John. So what did I do? I'd knock the price down. What a fucking idiot. Now if people, no one would say it now, but if they did say it now, I would say, well, my best price is probably a lot more than I'm charging you. Can we do something about the price? Oh, we can, yeah. It can go up a long way. But I, because of my positioning, I don't get that anymore. I just don't. I had one guy email me about the pot of gold. Are you doing any incentives for us to come along? What he meant was I want a price cut. And I said, dude, if coming to see Dan Kennedy live isn't incentive enough, you might as well just fuck off. Because you ain't ready for it. He never came back to me. Which is not surprising, is it? So, these choices that we have, your prices, where you want to sit in your market, the people you want to deal with, what you want to sell, how you want to sell it, they're all choices. You make them even if you don't make them, As the Rush song goes, if you choose not to decide, you've still made a choice. You go into work in the mornings and run your business, everything's by choice. And you can choose where you want to be. And you are free to choose anything. Okay? You are free to not position yourself as the expert. You are free to charge low prices. You are free to give discounts if you wish. I'm not going to make you do it. But you are not free to escape the consequences of your choices. If that lesson was taught to people in school, I think we'd have a better world, because people want to escape the consequences of their choices, don't they? I've gone the other way, and this is actually part of the answer to Vegard's question of how do you not give a fuck. One of the things I did do, and this wasn't the way I'm wired up, so it doesn't come naturally. I don't think it comes naturally to any of us, but I taught myself to do it a long time ago, and now it's second nature. And that is, I take full responsibility for everything that happens to me, whether it's my fault or not. Some things are the people's fault, and some things are just the way they are. A good example is my mental health. I just, having spoken to Michelle on FaceTime, and she said, what would you tell one of your elites to do if they said, have this conversation? So obviously I'd say, go see the doctor. There you go. And that's why I promised her I'd go and see the doctor, and because I promised her that's what I did. But then I took responsibility for it, as you see from my emails. And the overriding message I've been getting from people, from Kat, Michelle, Mo, on everyone really, even people I don't really know by email, is how proud of me they are for doing it, and how strong I must have been to do it. It's not about strength really, it's about I take responsibility for it. Once you've made that decision, it's easy. So even if it's somebody else's fault, take responsibility for it. That's one of the things about not giving a fuck. Because once you do that, you're in a very powerful position. I can be scared, but I'm almost impossible to intimidate, which is another very powerful position. The first night I took 4 clonazepam, my daughter, she wanted to go out, and she'd been grounded for being an arsehole. But I relented and let her out and says, I want you home by midnight and no drinking. So 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, she's brought back by the guards, rolling drunk. And these guards they're big guys in stab vests. I'm woken up 3:30 after having 4 clonazepam. I'm away with the fairies. I'm quite aggressive anyway at the best of times, especially when fucking police come to my house, because I'm not a fan of the police. And Rosie got a fucking big bruise on her arm, and the AMTs had been called because she'd got so drunk. And they said, who did that? Was that your father? And she said, no, it was my boyfriend. And it actually was. She said to her boyfriend for a lock, hit me as hard as you can, which he did. Just for a fucking great big bruise. But of course, the police thought it was me. So that's why they came up mob-handed in stab vests, because they didn't know what kind of a bloke I was. And they thought they were taking her home for a good hiding. So they're aggressive with me from the outset. So I responded in my usual way. And one of them saying, you don't have to calm down, sir. You have to stop swearing. He said, it's my fucking property. You come onto my fucking property at 3:30 in the morning. I will not be quiet. That didn't go down very well. I don't know why I got onto that one. But anyway, choices. So you make your choices, you pay your money, you take your choice, and you can choose what you like. But I strongly suggest you do, but you make the choices commensurate with what I'm teaching you today and tomorrow. So, everything in your business, everything in your life, who's not to read the book, 80-20 Principle by Richard Koch? I strongly suggest you get it. I think I bought it for everyone in Elite at the beginning, didn't I? I strongly suggest you get that. It's worth getting the DVDs, the CDs as well, or instead of. He narrates them himself. He's got a great voice. Not as good as our Nightingale. I could listen to him all day. And he talks about 8-20.
Just saying the book is very dry, and you could probably get most out of it in the first 2 chapters.
8-20. Well, he actually talks about, Richard Koch does talk about reading books in the 80-20s fashion. But if you examine everything you do through 80-20, including your relationships and your he calls them islands of happiness. Islands of happiness. Islands of happiness. When you think about it, it's true that the times you're happiest are quite small and condensed. And most people spend large portions of their lives doing shit they don't want to do. I mean, I'm always laughing at Michelle because she enjoys it, so I'm not saying she doesn't, but she has massive family gatherings. I mean, your entire lifestyle, your entire house and your patio is being built around the idea of having millions of people around to see you. That would drive me nuts. But, you know, that kind of thing would... When I was married before, my ex-wife was quite big on family too. So we would go round to to my in-laws. And they were nice people, but I used to hate it. So my life was punctuated by small periods of happiness when I wasn't with her. And then well, just me and my girls, because Alfie hadn't come along at that time. And vast stretches of absolute and utter murder and boredom. But most people's lives are like that, if you think about it. And it's really quite sad, isn't it? You spend so much of your life doing things that you don't actually... Because even if you're a happy person like I am for the most part, you still spend most of your life neither being happy or unhappy, being just kind of just coasting through it. What are you grinning at?
I've drawn an island of happiness.
I do worry about you sometimes, Michelle. I really do. So anyway, examine everything in your life and business through the 80-20 lens, because it will dramatically improve your fortunes and your happiness. Health, fitness, the rest of it, everything. And what does 80-20 have to do with raising prices? Well, raising your prices is quintessentially an 80-20 activity. It's a very small, potent thing that you can do to have a massive effect. Because the thing about, the overriding thing with the 80-20 principle is a small number of things have a disproportionately big effect. Raising your prices is one of them. No argument about that. A 10% price increase on a 35% margin will give you a 37-point-something% increase in profits. Well, no one's going to argue about a 10% price increase, really. Or the people who will argue about it are the kind of people you don't want to be fucking selling to anyway. No, when I slashed the Land Rover's tyre when I hit the curb the other day, I just pulled into the garage and the guy said, €85, is that all right? Well, of course it's all right. He could have charged me twice that, it'd have been all right. Because I need a fucking tyre on the car, I was like, I can't take the car anywhere else. I'm not going to jack it up and change the wheel just to go and find a cheaper tyre. So, This is a classic example of tasteless clothing. No, this is a classic example of premium pricing gone wrong. I'll come to it later. I don't just wear it for the sake of it, just to offend people. Or do I? So, raising your prices is a 80-20 activity. If you raise your prices and there's a problem, put them back down again. Because another mistake that people make is they look at their businesses as being, and this is actually symptomatic of their attitude to business as well. Excuse me. They see businesses as being a series of events of sales. So they think if they lose this sale, I'm never going to make any more. And it's bullshit. Because if you take the longer view, like of lead generation, which is dead, and you realise that it is a process and not an event, you then lose this emotional attachment to making any one sale. I'll say more about this positioning tomorrow. Positioning is a strange thing because premium pricing is very much into numbers, and you can talk about the numbers and you can see the effect on a spreadsheet or a chart. Positioning is more of a, I've been thinking about this, Vicky. Positioning is as much of a mindset thing as anything else. Because you've got your inner game, and unless you get your inner game sorted, you can't project it. This is what I was saying earlier about people who try and copy like me and Paul Morton, Dan Meredith and people. They don't get it right because they don't internalise it first. They just do it. I mean, I've seen emails from people swearing in their emails, and it doesn't work because you can tell it's not them. I don't know how I tell, but you can tell it's not them. It just doesn't work. Whereas I think people would be shocked if I didn't swear in my emails now. A small number of your products and services are responsible for the lion's share of your profits. We know this. That's what it's got to do with prices, with 80-20. They are the areas you should focus most of your time on. Because what we tend to do, and Richard Koch talks about this, what we tend to do is, if we want to improve our businesses, although we put our prices up, say, across the board, we will not market the things that sell the best. We'll tend to market the things that sell the worst, because we want to bring them up to speed, or up to the same level. But you can't do that, because you could have a sanity check, I suppose, and you may have made a fundamental error in your sales process. But for the most part, the things that are selling best now will always sell best. It does change, like Michelle was selling Tylite at one point, but then the market changed, technology changed. So there will be changes. But while the market's the same, so absent that kind of thing, what sells best now is going to sell best in the future. So if you've got a product that's selling really, really well and makes you loads of profit, and you've got one that makes you a bit less profit but you don't sell many of, there's not often a lot of point in focusing on that one. Because in your top 80-20, because of the 16-to-1 ratio, every 1%, every increase you make in your most profitable stuff is 16 times as valuable as the improvements you make in your lower end stuff. And it's a lot easier too, because now these things are selling better for a fucking reason. You're doing something right, the market wants it, whatever. But we tend to do it the other way around. We tend to nibble around the edges and go for the low-hanging stuff and try and bring it up to speed. It's a little bit like, you get a class full of kids and there's a few retards in there. It's like the teacher spending all the time trying to bring the retards up to scratch. Well, they should put them in a gas chamber or something, get rid of them, and just concentrate on the clever kids. Is that not politically correct? I'd like to say I didn't mean it, but I do. Well, when I was at school, I was obviously always one of the brightest kids there, if not the brightest. I just used to hate fucking stupid ones. The teacher would be explaining something. Does everybody understand? Oh, fucking, what's so hard about this? Interestingly enough, the school bully was one of these stupid ones, which is why he used to bully me. And that used to happen regularly. Because I used to wear glasses, which was unusual for a kid of my age. And because I had a lazy eye, I had a big white sticking plaster over one of them. I used to bully me mercilessly. And one day, he was setting to give me a good hiding, and for some reason I kicked him in the bollocks. And he went down. I thought, oh my God, I've just kicked him in the bollocks. He's going to kill me when he gets up. Don't let him get up. So I literally kicked his teeth out. I kept those shoes for years because I split the shoe on his teeth. And this was 40 odd years ago, 45 years ago. And things were different then. Because now if you kick someone's teeth, then you'd probably get in trouble. And when I kicked his teeth, and it was like, because the teachers knew they knew he was a piece of shit. And that followed me through for the rest of my life. That was great. So I'm one of the few Aspies who's never really been bullied for a long time, because people left me alone after that, because they thought he's a bit of a nut. I said, don't bother. Interestingly enough, although he grew up to be huge, he's about 6'4", and he's big with it, he was scared of me forever after that. He was very respectful towards me, even as an adult, when he could have marmalised me quite easily. Ah, that was good there. Good times. Well, I can't adequately explain how beneficial that was to me in terms of self-confidence and things, and just the sheer enjoyment of kicking his face in. Well, when you've got someone who's been bullying you for months, possibly years, and all of a sudden he's in a bloody heap at your feet and you're kicking his face in, it's pretty fucking good. You can leave that in as well. So if you want a refund for your DVDs, you can come and ask for one. Yeah, small number of your clients are responsible for the lion's share of your profits. Same thing. These are the ones you should focus on. We have this thing in business where the customer is always right. No, the customer's often a pain in the fucking arse, stupid, and you don't want to deal with them. When I used to, it doesn't happen so much now because I need to work more on this, but the inner circle used to be very busy in the email list. And there was a girl called, what's her name? The gingerhead lass, Belfast. Megan. I used to talk about Megan a lot because Megan used to do a lot of stuff. And people used to complain, well, you always talk about Megan, can't you talk about me, kind of thing. And I said, well, no, because you're not doing anything. I'm going to focus on the people who are doing stuff because that will spur them on more. It validates what I'm doing, and also it means they'll buy more from me. And she did. She came to a couple of boot camps and she bought stuff and the rest of it. And it's like my elites. I spend a lot of time with my elites because they deserve it. And people I want to bring into elite, like yourself, and there's a couple of others, I'll spend more time with them as well because it's in my interest to. I've invited you along to elite in September. Well, there's only one reason I'm doing that. I want you to join elite. You know, I invited Vicky Fraser along for one meeting in February, and she's been here for 2 years or more. I've been trying to get rid of Michelle for years, and she won't go. You know, she'll shake it off like a dog shagging your leg, you know. It reminds me, remember Wilson, the golden retriever, turned up. Rosie had been out. No, he's not turned up again. But I did actually have a message from West Cork Animal Welfare. He keeps being picked up. I'm going to ask the woman if she wants to sell him. But the way Wilson turned up, Rosie was out and she got dropped at the bottom of the lane as she walked up. And she says, she lets her know, she says, Dad, I've just been followed up the lane by a dog. So I opened the door and there's this golden retriever. I said, he's not coming in. He just looked at me and walked in and says, oh, hello. You're in then. And he just made himself at home. He was a great big fucking lump of dog. He was so gentle. He'd walk across he used to follow me everywhere, and I'd walk across the farmyard, and he'd just gently take my wrist in his teeth and walk with me. I don't know what's all that about. He was a beautiful boy, and he started responding to his name. And then the lady came along who farms the land with her husband, and she says, that's my brother's dog. Well, I ain't stolen it, he just turned up. I says, what's his name? I think he was Flash or something like that, yeah. And I says, of course, Flash, nothing. Wilson. She said, I can't believe how obedient he is. I said, I've been training him. Well, he never does this at home. That's because you don't train him, do you? This is why he's walking off, because he's getting no attention. And he's a lovely friend, because retrievers want to be around people, don't they? They're working dogs. Beautiful boy. Yeah, it was very dusty when they took him away, I tell you. A small increase in the sales of your most profitable widgets gives you a disproportionate increase of profit. This is what I've just been saying. Ounce for ounce, that's 16 times more profitable than trying to bring up something that's flagging or something that's not doing so well. No, be sensible about this. If it's obvious you've got something wrong or a new product that you think could do well, yes. But don't look at your balance sheet and you look at your sales and say, well, we're not selling many of these pink widgets, let's try and sell more pink widgets. Let's do a push on pink widgets. Unless you've got a big stock of pink widgets that you need to get rid of, obviously. Focus on what's working and do more of it. And as a corollary to that, it's the same kind of thing as I'll tell people to do something and they'll do it. Say put the prices up, it's a good one, 10%. What do I do now? Well, put your price up again. Well, I can't, why not? I've just done it, so no one complained. I call it, I think I mentioned it later on, it's called the price ratchet. You just keep ratcheting it up every couple of months until you reach the point where people are complaining, and then you have to make a decision. You want to put up with the complaints and sell a fewer things but make more money, or just take it back a notch and keep the peace. But here's the thing, again, we'll say more about it, but if you're not getting price resistance, you're too cheap, Alex. Well, not for me, obviously. You didn't hear the resistance I put up, and it doesn't work in video. Yeah, and for reasons I will come to very shortly, premium pricing and premium positioning, they make selling easier, not harder. And there's so many advantages for doing so as well. Principle number 3. You are responsible for yourself. I kind of said a bit about this earlier. Has anyone got through the Fitbit? But you've got one of those watches. And you want to get like a fucking... yeah, and it only works when you don't... Well, like at night it works. When you're in bed, it goes... oh, fucking hell. You're responsible for yourself. You are responsible for yourself. This comes in many guises. Dan Kennedy uses the phrase, and I don't know where he got it from, and I don't think he said he got it from someone else. I can't remember what the original source was. People are walking around with an umbilical cord in their hand looking for somewhere to plug it in. They want people to... I think this is why religion is such a big thing. People want to be taken care of. You get to a certain point in your life and you realise, fuck, I'm going to die one day. And you realise, I'm probably about halfway through. And that was the best half. I mean, that's not true for me. I mean, it's kind of... I think Lovey's called it the human condition, you know. I'm 52, I'm in great shape, hip notwithstanding, and hip, shoulder, mental health notwithstanding. Hey? Eyesight. Yeah, I mean, yeah, my body is starting to fucking show its age. And I'm in good shape, but I ache in the mornings, things grind and creak and crack. Not everything works like it used to, quite so well. I have more than a passing interest in Viagra, I think like that. No, I did actually think when I started on the meds, because one of the things... Well, actually, the doctor says, well, is it going to affect my libido? He says, no, not exactly, but we'll come to that later. And he kept saying that. I says, well, come on, what is it? What's the meds going to do? He says, well, it's not so much that it affects your libido, or your interest in it, but what it will do is it makes it harder to get there at the end. Fucking hell, it's hard enough anyway. Tantric. Yeah. I mean, it's not fair, is it? Life ain't fair. When you realise how precious and amazing life is and what's available to you, you're old, or you're getting there, you know. Half fucking century. I'm on the downhill slope to death now. And I saw this is really grim, isn't it? I saw my dad in hospital, and I thought, that's me in 40 years. Having some fucking 25-year-old nurse cleaning between your septic toes. Great. It's not fair. We should be born old and get younger. So by the time you've got all the experience and joy of life, you're in an 18-year-old's body. I'd love you in an 18-year-old's body, I would. as long as she was tight and good looking. But no, seriously, you are responsible for yourself. And people want to be looked after. That's why I think religion is so powerful. I think it's why so many people are socialists. They want someone else out there, that in their case, probably the government, to do something about the things that piss them off or they don't like. Not understanding that governments never fix anything. Government, like religion, spoils everything. And you are responsible for yourself. Now, that is really, I mentioned it earlier about responsibility for everything that happens to you. It's actually a very deep and profound thing. I know it sounds quite shallow, or not shallow, it sounds very simple. And it won't make a big difference in your life. But I'm telling you, it really will. Because it would also help you with your relationships with other people. Because one of the most frustrating things in life is other people. People you care about, particularly, you want to do a certain thing, and they just won't. Children, wives, spouses, lovers, even friends. And people get angry about other people's behaviour because they just don't like it. You know? They'll get angry about your opinions. And this comes down to fundamental lack of responsibility. Now, this is a fucking deep rabbit hole. I did an entire day's seminar on this, Big 5-0. Responsibility, libertarianism, self-determination. I'd suggest that anyone who's been in elite for a certain time is libertarian leaning, more so than they were. I know Drew is. And Michelle and Kat has certainly become that way in the last 3 or 4 years, even if you weren't before. I think they had leanings that way anyway, because otherwise they wouldn't have been around me.
Probably didn't know it from
No.
that.
But it's the self-responsibility, self-determination is the only logical conclusion when you start thinking about these things. It is a rabbit hole. And you've got to understand that you are responsible for everything that you do. The stuff about you're responsible for everything that happens to you is not true. Yeah? Despite what some people believe that you can attract meteorites with your negative thoughts. Collectively. I mean, how the fuck do you even come out with something as stupid as that? Despite the people who believe that, you know, some things you can't help. Some things, just, you know, if you're in an aeroplane that crashes, yeah, you have the choice of getting on the aeroplane, but you don't expect it to crash. Or if a plane lands on your building, there's nothing you can do about it. So you're not responsible for everything that happens to you. You know, you don't bring it on yourself. But most things you do, probably. You know, if you're not happy with your life because you're living in the wrong place, living in with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, that is your choice. And I think it was Harry Brown. There's a really good book. Take a note of this. It's very expensive. It's not for everyone. I've got a few copies if you want to buy one. No, you can buy it. I think you can buy it as a PDF and print it from harrybrown.com. It's Harry Brown with an E. But it's How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World. Harry Brown was quintessentially a libertarian. And I think it's in that book. It may be him, it may be Robert Ringer, who's another libertarian, but he's a bit weird. He's a bit of a creationist. He actually said that evolution is only a theory, which tells me lots about him. Not least that he doesn't know what a theory is. You know, a theory is just a wacky idea. It's a well-supported body of knowledge in science. He said, well, anyway, whoever it was, one of those two, said, there is, no matter what situation, I'm sure it's Harry Brown, whatever situation you're in, there is always a way out. It's just whether you're willing to pay the price. So people who say, and you know, they're married, they're unhappy, can't get out of the marriage, why not? Oh, can't afford to. Oh, they can, they just don't want to. I'm not making light of it because I know how fucking difficult divorce is. I don't know if you're divorced or if you've got, you know, you don't have much money, you don't work yourself, you've got young kids, an abusive husband or whatever. It must be fucking frightening, but you still stay there by consent. You know, and I've never said that women like that like it because they can't, but they're not taking responsibility for themselves. I'm not saying it's easy, don't get me wrong, but there is always, no matter how unhappy you are, how miserable your life is, there is always a way out. The only time there isn't, I guess, is if you've got a serious debilitating illness that's killing you. There's no cure. Do you think Stephen Hawking's got a Fitbit, counts his steps?
Double time.
I made laugh a few years ago. He apparently ran away with his nurse. Well, she kind of actually wheeled him away, but he did. He left his wife for his nurse. Very clever guy. But anyway, this is fundamental. I've not put any notes on it because it's self-evident to me, and it's such a big. Well, I am writing a book about it, anyway, slowly. Well, if your life is so crap, I'm writing another book at Vicky's prompting and Angie Buchanan. Eh? No, this is going to be. This will be out very, very soon, because it will be largely taken from my emails. It's just called "Fuck My Life." It's about my life as an Aspie and then the last 3 months.
The poster boy for Aspies.
By intention. Well, and the thing is, I've had this conversation with people. And someone says I shouldn't bother doing it because there's been loads of people who've done it already. Well, no one's written a book like mine. I'll guarantee that. But I'm also not doing it because I want to be of service to the Asperger's community. I'm not doing it at all. I'm doing it for myself. It may be useful for them, but the most important thing, it would be useful for me and my business. I am self-serving. Now, when I say again, this is all to do with this principle number 3. I'm quite open in my emails about being self-serving. I always look out for number 1. But I also realise that by doing that, the best way to do that is to look out for my clients. So you never hear me say, I want you to have this because it'll help your business. I want you to have it because it'll help make me money. But I also know that I can't do that reliably and repeatedly if I sell you shit. This comes back to selling more stuff to people. So it is relevant. Integrity, that's what I've got. I had a joke about that, I can't remember what it was. I haven't told my other joke yet, have I? I always tell this one. I went to the doctor when I went and told me to go about my panic attacks. I sat down and I says, I keep thinking I'm Tom Jones. He says, it's not unusual. So even Alex is laughing at that one. Are you enjoying it so far, Alex? Good. Remember, price increases don't work in video. But yeah, this being responsible for yourself is and allowing others to be responsible for themselves is the flip side of that. Because you'll find often clients and customers will come to you, and this is about pricing as well. They'll come to you with a problem, I can't afford it. Well, that's them giving them your problem. Sorry, that's them giving you their problem. Yeah? I don't have enough money, that's too expensive. Well, why are they telling you that? Because they want you to cut your price. Otherwise, there's no point in them telling you. There's no purpose to them telling you other than the fact they want you to cut your price. Well, they are then trying to give you their problem. And the correct response to that, well, either you can just say, well, that's the price, hard luck. The problem, but a good answer to it is, well, the problem isn't that it's expensive, it's that you can't afford it. Because that really winds them up. But that passes the problem back to them, which is where it belongs. It was Shell Rose Charvet, the NLP girl, who actually does some great stuff with language, who says the best way to treat a banana skin when it's thrown to you, which is what this is to throw it back. Because they try and trip you up with it. It's like when people, you probably get this a lot, share with your extended family. Can you just have the children for us for the weekend? That kind of thing. People and school stuff. People try and rope you in. I've got this really, really busy schedule and I'm not quite sure how to do it. And they're then passing you their problem. They want you to volunteer. And the answer to that is with the banana skin is to say, well, that sounds like you're going to have a really busy time. Just let me know how it goes, won't you? People do it with me when a certain person pissed me off because I've given him loads of free advice over the years. And he pissed me off by charging my wife a stupidly small amount of money for something. So from that point on, whenever he asked me a business-related question, and he'd say, oh, it's really bad, I can't do this, I would say, yeah, that sounds really bad. I would just acknowledge what he'd said and move on. I wouldn't give him any free advice. Yeah, so they are the fundamentals. We can now have a little break where we can point Percy at the porcelain, siphon the python, or the girls can go for a quick crouch. 10-minute break, and then we start again. We should be doing. Actually, we should have a break. Yes, I'll go and chase that up. I think it'll be coming at 11. We got any questions?
I do. What was the island of happiness about?
You were so busy drawing it, you didn't listen to me. The island of happiness is what Richard Koch was saying is you have a very small number of things in your life that make you really happy. That, you can imagine the 80-20 thing. Extreme happiness might be having a great day out with the kids, going out for a meal. But they're things that are fairly infrequent. And they are your islands of happiness that you visit. And what I think his point was that we don't visit them anywhere near enough. If you have these small number of things that you really enjoy doing, the obvious question, why are you doing more of it? Okay, you might get bored and stuff, but which actually does happen. I mean, I remember when I was a doorman, and well, actually after that, I was single, so I was back on the dating scene. I went out every Friday and Saturday night, or every other Friday and Saturday night, because I had the kids to the other ones, and I went out on the pull, and it was dead easy because my old doorman stuff. and I got bored of that. So my happiness islands at that point got to be quite tiresome. No challenging, there's no point doing, is there?